I'm Michelle, and this is the We Rise by Lifting Each Other podcast. I'm so excited you're here today because I get to be here with a friend of mine, Luba Sasowski. She is going to talk about how I just told her this, she's one of my favorite badass boss bitches. And if you don't understand, that is the most sincere compliment I can give someone. And I stole it from Ted Lasso. If you haven't watched it, you must go do it. But Luba is just a force of nature. She is the CEO and founder of Bryght, which offers skincare made with you in mind, your body and your health. And she has products which range from skin lightening, waxing. We're going to talk about anal bleach probably in there. And people go, what? But you'll get it. And I met her through our breast cancer journeys. And because she's such an amazing human, she used all of her knowledge from her salon days and Bryght to create products for those who've gone through skin cancer or have delicate dry skin, lupus, eczema, so many things. And the two that I use personally are called Strength and Courage. And they're pretty amazing. But what I really want to talk about with her today is she is, as I mentioned, the CEO of Bryght, but she is such a strong woman and she wants to support women and help them move up as well because she knows how hard it was in her journey and she just wants to help out others get to the same place where she is because she's all about lifting up other women. And nothing against men. We love men. We're married to men. Can't live with them, can't shoot them. But, we've been women over the centuries have been placed in kind of a secondary position. And Luba is not one to take that as an answer. So she's breaking glass ceilings and continues to do so every day with Bryght and so many other things that she's involved in. So Luba, welcome.
Thank you for having me. And I'll totally take that badass boss bitch comment because I've been called worse. So I'll take that.
Well, I can't imagine that because every interaction, we have not met in person yet. This is the second time she's been on one of my podcasts. She was on the Breast Friends Cancer Support Network back in December or January of 2020, 21. I don't even know, 22. I literally just go search and you'll find her because she's actually all over the internet. She has her own podcast for Bryght called Between Both Cheeks, which is fabulous. And I'm going to be on in October talking about my book and my life. But we met literally on Instagram, I think, because when you are a breast cancer fighter, warrior, whatever, your feed starts to fill up. And I was like, wow, this woman is amazing. And funny story, the first time I ever did a live Peloton class, Luba was in that class. I've never done a live class since. And it was just like, it was kismet. It was meant to be. And I know this woman is, she's going to be in my corner for the rest of our lives and hoping, fingers crossed, that later this year, early next year, we're going to meet in person.
Yes, we will.
Because she is based in Canada and just sold one of her earlier businesses in Vegas, so she won't be there as much. And I don't make it to Canada very often, but one day I will.
I love that,
Yes. So one of the things I do at the highlight of every episode before we dig into what we're really going to talk about is I highlight a drink because I enjoy random trivia and a good cocktail can go a long way. So Luba's favorite is champagne. And if you follow her on Instagram, she is always out with beautiful cocktails and champagne drinks with her friends and going to the Chippendale shows in Vegas. And she's got champagne in her hand or the money gun, one or the other. I don't know. But about champagne, the history of it is it's interesting because champagne was actually a mistake. It began when the Romans planted vineyards in northeast France, about the 5th century-ish, and it evolved from being a pale pinkish still wine to a sparkling wine. And although the producers of champagne were great at what they do, the region was plagued by very cold winters. And when the temperatures hit that freezing level, the fermentation would stop. But then it would warm up again in the summer and the secondary fermentation would occur. And that's where the carbon dioxide bubbles came to form in the wine, creating this fizzy texture we now associate with champagne. And It is only from that region. So if you're drinking something else that's sparkling, it is not made there. And funny story, it has way back when it was nicknamed Le Vin du Diable, or the devil's wine. And I'm like, okay, that seems kind of fun because, why not be a little devilish? And many people know that Dom Perignon, it kind of is synonymous with champagne. He was a French monk and cellar master, often credited as being the inventor, but it's kind of, it's legend, but they're not really sure. And legend has it, I've said legend twice and I hate that, but this is where my brain goes. Back in 1693, upon first tasting the technically spoiled wine, which now sparkled, he said, "Come quickly, I'm tasting the stars." And I love that quote. That is amazing. And while it's a very romantic story, who knows if it's true, but I will take it. It is believed to be an embellished part of a marketing campaign to increase the prestige of the Abbey of St. Van wine. And most people actually believe that Dom Perignon spent a lot of time trying to remove what he considered the defective bubbles. We all know there is nothing wrong with those damn bubbles, so we were going to keep them. So cheers.
Cheers. I actually not just in March, we actually went to Champagne. That has been a long time.
Amazing.
Dream of I wanted to do it for my Champagne birthday, which didn't happen. So, it was a trip of a lifetime. It was incredible. So
wonderful.
Amazing.
Well, I just got back from New Orleans and I drank a bunch of rum and hurricanes and that was fun, but nothing today because it's just too damn hot here to drink. And yes. So we are going to start and dig in about Luba. And I know enough to be dangerous about her. So I'm going to let her start and talk about how she got to where she is today. But one of the things I do know is that so much of her drive and passion came from her parents. So can you talk a little bit about that and your upbringing and how you got here?
Wow. I was just so crazy that you asked this because I was literally just thinking about my parents like so much last night and this morning. So wild question. Timing's just crazy. So I was born to Ukrainian Polish immigrants. I was born in Canada, but I might as well have been born in the village of the Ukraine because my first language was Ukrainian. I went to school not knowing a word of English. I grew up in a very, very small town, population 18,000. It was very much a cowboy town. So I did not fit in. I did not fit in at all. My parents were older. So my mom had me when she was 35, which is totally normal today. 43 years ago, that was old. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, my dad was 18 years older than her. So high school, elementary, junior high was not kind to me. I had a really awkward name. My parents were my grandparents that didn't speak proper English. I grew up on the other side of the track. So everyone was like, oh my God, she's so poor. So life was not good for me in a small town. I don't have really any good memories there. All I knew is that I wanted to get the hell out. And there was so much more opportunity elsewhere. I spent a lot of time in Europe as a kid. And I was just, I would dread coming home. So I didn't even go to my graduation party. I left for the big city. I traveled all across Europe and then I landed in Vancouver. My parents, my mother was a janitor and my dad worked for the city very part-time. So growing up, I would be taken to the dental clinics at about 5 p.m. So I would get picked up from school at 3:00. We would have something to eat for dinner around 4:30, 5:30. We were on our way as a family in this beat up little truck to go clean these dental offices. And then,
not what your friends were doing in the afternoons.
Oh my God, no. I also grew up on a farm. Like it was normal. We had 400 chickens. We had 200 geese. We had a bull. I remember picking eggs as a kid and having to wipe the shit off of them. So people would come and buy eggs from us at $1.25 a dozen. We butchered all of our own meat. We made all our own comforters, like from the down from the
Mm-hmm.
geese. I would have to like rip it out of their butts to like make down pillows and down comforters, all of that. So then after we would do the cleaning at the dental offices together, we would always go visit their friends, which were usually the grandparents of people that I knew. And we would go for coffee in the evening with them. So I was always around like older people
Mm-hmm.
all the time.
So you
Then I
grew
would
up fast.
oh my God, I had no childhood because
Mm-hmm.
this started my entire life. Then we would go home. I would sleep till about 4:30 in the morning. I would be woken up, and then we would drive to, I don't think you guys have this in the States. It's called the Royal Canadian Legion. It's like a bar club type thing, like Shriners, if I
We
can
have
say, like something similar.
some things
Okay,
like that. Yeah.
the Legion, right? So we would go to this bar, and as a baby, my parents would just lay me on the pool table and I would sleep, and my parents would clean. So as I grew up, I had the job of cleaning all of the hundreds of tables or the stairs. So this was just a cycle of like 4:30 in the morning. We would go to the Legion, to the bar to clean. I would come home. I would, bathe. They would drive me to school. I would go to school. There was no playing after school because I was on to my other job. And my mom was such a hard ass that I remember I was 7 years old. I was scrubbing the stairs at the Legion at this bar. And I remember like looking up, and there were like, it felt like thousands of stairs. Like I was never going to come to the end of it. And I always had this crazy imagination, right? Like I was like, oh my God, I'm Cinderella. Someone's going to come rescue me. Or I was like pretending like I was a famous person and I would get caught dancing in the mirror. I would just like let the vacuum run and I would get busted like dancing in the mirror. Like crazy. I would just make up like crazy stories because I was an only child. So as I was scrubbing these stairs, and the solution for the scrub was bleach and water and just my bare hands.
Oh.
So I remember all of a sudden looking at my hands, and I was getting these blisters with blood. And I ran to my mother at 7 years old, and I was like, oh, look what's happening. Look what's happening. She didn't say a word. She turned around. She found some Vaseline. She slapped it on my hands, and she said, and now get back to work. Now, some people might view that as child abuse. My mother had a very, very hard life where she was mentally and physically like beaten. She was told things that, I never should have had you. I should have drowned you when you were born. Like she went through massive abuse. So the way that I look at it is my mother never hit me. Yes, I got spanked as a child, but she never beat me. She never hit me. She did the best that she knew how to do.
Exactly.
And I think she did an incredible job based on the life that she had. My childhood could have been a lot worse. But I remember looking at her and being in disbelief, like this is the solution. Like my hands are bleeding at 7. And I remember I looked at her and I said, when I grow up, I'm not going to be a cleaning lady. I'm going to have one. And she just looked at me and she said, good luck. Let me know when that happens. So I've always, I always am a huge person of like manifestation and stuff. This is like where I think it came from. Like I wanted out of this life so badly that I was willing to do anything to change the outcome of my life. I didn't want to be in the small town. I didn't want to be a cleaning lady. Like I just knew there was so much. I did not do well in school. I joke that like I barely graduated because I think a big part of it was like, I hated my life so bad with the people my age. So I had no desire to go to school. I was constantly like being bullied. So like, why go to a place that is, you don't feel safe in? And there was no mental health back then.
No.
Like I remember in the 7th grade, like this girl cornered me with the whole group and beat the shit out of me in the hallway. And the teachers didn't give a shit. They were like, okay. Like that didn't exist. Right? Like bullying was just bullying and you just dealt with it. You
dealt with it and you moved on.
Yeah. My dad passed away from lung cancer when I was 13. He was a very, very heavy smoker. Back then, back in the old country, it was cheaper to smoke than to eat. So that's how they would suppress hunger. Oh. So he had I mean, he was such a strong smoker that like he would rip off the filters and smoke directly from that. Like that's the type of nicotine he needed. So then it was just my mom and I. After he passed away, I was like 14, 15. And then it just got even more intense for me because we didn't have a man that was helping with the farm. We didn't have a man that was helping us at the bars cleaning. And there was some major equipment that had to be used for, polishing floors and stuff. So I became that person. And that was my entire life until I was able to move away.
Like,
Then
I
I
love
moved
you,
to,
Mom, but I got to go do things on my own. And this is not what I want in my life. Like, I love you, but I'm out.
yeah. I had a few years, a good career with modeling, which I never really shared with anyone because I knew I always wanted to be in the corporate world. And I felt that if people knew about that, they wouldn't take me seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like one of the biggest regrets that I have, and I think maybe I've talked about this once, I was asked to pose for Playboy and I said no.
That's a
Which
very personal choice. It would have benefited you financially. But yeah, you have beautiful boobs. I can understand why they would want you, and you are stunning. But yeah, I probably would have said no too, but you know what? More power to the women who want to do it.
I know. I think I just regret it because like as you get older, what is it that Schitt's Creek where Moira Rose goes, take 1,000,000 pictures of yourself, darling. Like, I don't know what the exact words are, but like you'll never look like this again. And to have that, but I said no, because I knew I wanted to get into corporate. I knew it was a man's world. And all I could think of is like, if the CEO of L'Oreal has that magazine, he will never take me seriously.
Exactly.
So I chose not. So that's probably one regret that I have in my life. But then, yeah, I moved to the big city. I worked my way up. I didn't have an education, so it was just hard work. And I worked my way up from, working as a cashier at a major chain. I worked my way up to a manager. I was running the largest cosmetics department in all of Canada. And then I was eventually running the country with their competitor. So yeah, I was meeting with the president of Chanel. I was meeting with the president of CoverGirl. Like that was a regular day. And that was also very, very hard. I was the youngest one in the office. I was the only one that didn't have a degree, and it was required to have a degree in that position. So yeah, life was not, it was almost like, it was like high school all over again. But when you grow up with that feeling or that environment, that becomes your normal. And it wasn't until years of therapy, I finally understood this is not normal. Like being sick all the way out, driving an hour and a half to the corporate office, throwing up, and then walking into a meeting because your nerves are so out of control about what's going to happen. I mean, even right down to like sexual harassment. Like my boss in front of everyone said in this massive meeting, I had just given a speech at a big industry award ceremony. And as I was going up for this event to present this award and give my speech, the cameraman decided to zoom in on my ass. So on the Megatron screen, that's all that you saw. And I didn't know that, right? I was walking up. I gave the speech. I came back. I sat back down. My assistant was sitting next to me and she's like, oh my God, like, do you know what they did? And I was like, oh, haha, like, whatever. I went back to the office. My boss was there at that event, that black tie event. And at the office in our meeting with the entire office, he said, well, at least we know that we hired Luba for the right reasons. We got a real asset on the team.
Oh.
And so this was normal. Like it was normal for me to get emails from owners of these businesses that were married asking me to have affairs with them. Like it was so toxic, but I just felt like this is just part of what it needs to be in order for me to be successful and move on to the next thing, right? Because my whole thing was like, I was either going to live in LA and work for some huge cosmetic company, or I was going to live in Paris and work for Chanel. Like those were the two goals.
And so what was the impetus to finally make you say, okay, enough is enough? I am going to go out on my own and fuck everybody else, and I'm going to succeed as a strong woman without dealing with all of this crap that you're giving me.
It was a nervous breakdown that put me in the hospital.
Ugh.
Yep, they found me on the bathroom floor at one of the conferences and whisked me away very quickly so no one would see. Actually, from one of the people that found me in the bathroom, she actually told me that the CEO of the company was like, quick, get her out of here so nobody sees. Not, is she okay?
Right. Just get her out.
Make sure no one sees this. Yeah.
Conferences are a nightmare, man. I've been to some where you just work so much and it's because you're so driven and you want to do a good job, but then you're so exhausted that your body just gives out.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were things that happened at that conference that really built into why that was like the final straw for my mind and my body. Like it was just more and more toxicity that came out that I was like, I can't believe this is happening. So, so I ended up in the hospital. I took, my doctor forced me on a leave of absence. And then the company paid for a therapist for me to see because physically there was nothing wrong with me. I was the healthiest I'd ever been. I was, mid-20s, and they paid for me to see this therapist. And I had to see this therapist 3 times a week. It was documented if I showed up a minute late because then it looked like I didn't want to get better and, the return to work program. And it was with her that she finally said, like, your childhood was not normal and like very abusive. Like you might not think so, but it was. Your work environment, you can't, I remember she said to me, she goes, you can't go back there.
And you're like, I remember
what? And I remember
my job, having my career.
Yeah. A panic attack on like, I lost my identity completely.
Yep.
And she just said, she's like, it's not going to change. You've went to HR, you've went to your boss, you went to these women that have been horrible to you, that have ganged up on you in these meetings and stuff, like, and nothing has changed. So why do you think it's going to change going back?
It's the definition of insanity.
And that to me was so big because I was like, oh my God, like I'm not even paying her. Like the company's paying her and she's telling me like for your well-being. So obviously she couldn't share any personal stuff with them, but it was just documented on, did I show up for these sessions? So I'm happy to say that she is still my therapist to this day.
I love that. I just pay her now.
So I've seen her for over 20 years. So I had this dream called wax and I never shared it with anyone. I was just a file. So I had all this time off. I had to keep busy. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And the first t-shirt uniform that I made said anal bleach. I used to work for assholes. Now I just bleach them. And I sent that to my former boss. And I said, how is this for outside the box? Because I was constantly being pulled into the office saying, you're too outside the box. Get back in. Let the competitor do it first. And then if it works, then you can do it. Or I would be told like, you dress up too much. And I was like, I'm in cosmetics. Like,
that's
hey, Dave, of your braided belt and your, socks and sandals.
Yeah. That's the uniform. You need to look put together and beautiful and you're presenting an image.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the first uniform that I did for myself and for my brand. And that was the shirt that I sent him on email. I never returned. I didn't have any communication with anyone after that. And then there's like, I had heard things from people. Of course, the rumors circulate. I fainted because I had an eating disorder. I had a drug problem. And I was like, listen, up until now, the only drug that I've done is chemo, and that's pretty harsh.
Yeah.
But that was like, I was super, super healthy. There was always, people were saying, well, she just couldn't handle it. It was too much. I had an assistant and a bookkeeper and a receptionist that would field my call. Like, listen, life was easy in corporate when it came to that part of it. Being a business owner, you wear all of those hats. There is no assistant, there is no bookkeeper, there is no, like it's all you. So that was much harder over there. And then wax came and went just recently, I guess. I did that for 16 years.
And what made you go like, I want to wax people and bleach their anal parts? Like, how did that come about?
But it's why. So this goes back to like the business side of me. I'm not an esthetician. Everyone thinks that I do the services. No, I'm not licensed.
You're the brains and the businesswoman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, there was no place in Canada that only did waxing. So Canada doesn't have a European wax center. Everything they do everything under one roof. You'll get your nails done, your hair done, a wax, a facial, your eyelashes, everything's done in one. And for someone that's been getting wax since I was like 16, 17 years old, the good people were booked out 3 to 4 months in advance. Mm-hmm. And usually because they were doing other stuff like pedicures.
Right.
And then there wasn't a place for men to go to. And this was, just when the term was coming out, manscaping. Mm-hmm. But there was no place for them to go. And then they also made me feel like the salons made me feel very weird because I would always ask the esthetician to like wax my lower back. Because as a kid, I would shave my lower back. I don't know why. So now I have like this little rabbit's tail. It was never on the menu. So then I would ask her to do it after my Brazilian, and she had no issue to do it. So then I would go to the desk and I would say like, hey, I got this done. I want to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And I just got all these like snarky, like looks like, oh, you grow hair there? Oh, well, that's not on our menu. And I was like, okay, if this is how I'm feeling, can you imagine how other people feel? Like we all grow hair in all different areas. Mm-hmm. Why are you shaming your client on this? So that was the idea of wax, was like a unisex place that didn't have all the frills, wasn't pink with chandeliers, that people could ask their most intimate questions about anything, whether it be hyperpigmentation in sensitive areas, hair growth in areas that they don't feel as normal, and just to normalize that experience and have it be just a really quick in and out, easy conversation, easy. That's where it came from. That was the only reason that it came from.
And it was a huge success. And you opened up another salon in Las Vegas.
Yeah. So we had several over the years. We had a pop-up shop on the Strip. I opened up in Vegas. So as a Canadian, to open up in another country is a lot of work, a lot of risk. I risked my entire life savings to do it. I slept in my car. And like this small town girl, like now has a brand partnership with Chippendales, with RuPaul's Drag Race, with, just such great things came from it. And the other reason too that I wanted my own business was I was treated so badly in corporate, and I was such a part of that male dominated patriarchy bullshit that I just kept saying to myself, like, I want a fun and safe place for women to work where they're not going to be judged. So, the whole Playboy thing that plays through my mind, girls would come in with blue hair. They had fully tattooed from their necks to like full sleeve. And I never once told them like, you need to cover that up. You need to change your hair back. No, be who you are and let this be a safe environment. Girls would stay at me. They had like abusive boyfriends and they would come to my house and they would sleep there. Like, that's what I wanted. And that's why like culture is the number one priority at Bryght. When I talk about like, there is no bullshit. If you are a negative Nancy, I don't have time for it. You're done. You're cut from the team. I've sent people home from a trade show. Like they've shown up and I'm like, so-and-so's going to escort you out. Your flight's been booked. You don't get to be a part of this anymore.
Yeah, you are not the right attitude to be on the Bryght team. So you had the wax bars, and then what made you go, okay, I want to do something else? Where did Bryght come from?
Mostly people just asking about anal bleaching, like because we were the place to go where people were so comfortable talking to us because we created a safe space for them. People were literally asking for it. And I was like making these little mocktails of product with like pulling from different brands on the shelf based on my knowledge of product development of like, oh, this could work because it has bearberry and licorice root in it as a natural lightener. So we're going to put this on their butt after we do the wax. Like it was literally trial and error within my own business. Like created like almost like a little lab.
Not being a scientist, not being an esthetician,
No,
you're like, screw
yeah,
it. I'm going to figure this out on my own.
right. And I mean, like I did product development and stuff in my previous career. You know, I got to work with a chemist and stuff. That was different. But I was like, well, these products are already here. So what if I take this from this line, this from this line? Oh, this has like a little bit of salicylic acid in it. Like I knew everything skin because I was passionate about cosmetics. And that's when we started doing like internal services at Wax for professional. No one was doing it before. There was no professional line of anal bleach. I invented it.
Woohoo!
Right. So that's where, and then finally, like I, you know, as I was like kind of being like, you know, I think I want to kind of get into the trade show market. I want to start helping other women in the industry. That's where I was like, okay, I'm not keeping this for us anymore. I'm doing our own like actual brand. I will work with the chemist, what works. And at that point, like I already knew what worked, what didn't work. I was living it day to day, playing receptionist or manager, working with estheticians, getting their feedback, putting protocol together, looking at what worked, what didn't. And that's how Bryght was born.
I love that. And just to confirm, Bryght is a women-only organization. Is that correct?
Owned and operated. So anyone that packs your orders to our videographer, yeah, we're woman owned and operated.
You know, I was searching for stats this morning. I cannot find one single stat on how many women-only companies are out there because I don't think it's very common.
No.
And do you ever get men applying or saying, well, you can't do this, how you're excluding men? Have you had that come up?
No, not yet.
Good.
Not yet. We'll probably get to a point where we will have to, and it's not intentional, right? It's not like I'm not fuck the patriarchy. I'm not gonna hire any men, and I hate men. We love our men.
We love men. Yeah.
We do love our men.
Hence the partnership with Chippendales.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we love our men. It really is representation. So me being in the cosmetic industry forever, every person that I met with, every CEO, every CFO, from CoverGirl to Chanel, it was all men at the top. And true, like, let's be really, really honest here. And I'm probably going to get in shit for saying this, some hate comments, but like, what do men truly know about skin and cosmetics? What do they know? It usually comes from an idea that they have that they know they can make a ton of money from. But that's usually like some man in a warehouse or some guy in an office that like you can't even see his face or know who owns a company on his website. So like, let's really talk about putting yourself out there and being the face of the brand, someone who uses their own products and not a 3-in-1 shampoo. I mean, most of the men that own these companies that do come out to like, honey, you're not even using your own product. You can tell because the men that do show up to these shows and that are like, you know, owners of skincare companies, you can tell that they use their product. But I have an issue with like brands that are out there where like, where is the about us on your website? Right. Who owns this company? What is your intention with it? What is your giving back to the planet and to the people? Because for me, like Wax kind of was, its heart stopped beating when I couldn't reach enough people to help them and make them more successful. I could do it to a team of 3 to 5 people because my businesses were small. We only had 3 treatment rooms in each store. So I can only help guide, coach, mentor 3 to 5 people. Now I am given the opportunity to speak to thousands of people at these trade shows to impact their life in a positive way and spread the message of collaboration over competition. Know what you're putting on your shelf. Everything carries an energy. I'm able to do that on a larger scale, and my heart beats for that. Some of these other lines, where are these people? We don't even hire people like employees at the trade show. We hire our own customers because they believe in the brand. So like, we're not on a commission basis. We don't have a goal walking into a trade show on, Michelle, you're a Bryght babe and you have to sell $10,000 this show. No, you're a customer, and I want you to speak from your heart to the other people that are interested on why it works in your business.
Oh my God, I can't wait till you come to Portland so I can be a Bryght babe. I've been talking about this for 2+ years. And it's so amazing because if you follow Luba or Bryght on their social media, you can see when they're at these trade shows, the lines to get into their specific sessions are hundreds of people long. They fill up. You have to get there early or else you're going to miss it. Like, that's how popular Luba and her team are at these shows because they're so authentic. And as you said, it's all about collaboration and communication. And you are teaching so many people, I mean, mostly women at these shows, some men obviously, but how to do this on their own and to be successful. And it's not about, you're not like, oh, well, if I teach people, they're my competition. You're like, no, I'm lifting everyone up.
Yeah. And I think like this comes full circle for me on like having a really tough time growing up in that small town and not being able to express who I am. And like, I was always weird and different. I was always weird. I looked different. You know, I spoke a different language. I was just so different. And now to be able to like walk into a trade show with my tribe, with our heads held high, and like, we just don't give a fuck. That's who I wanted to be in school, but I was punished for that. So now to be able to allow other people to be that and be empowered in that, that's huge for me, because now I don't care what people think and what people say. Before I did, right? So if I can help young women that felt like that or feel like that now to like, how much am I helping them with their self-esteem, their business, their life?
Oh my God. If I was in my 20s and someone taught me to not give any fucks, my life would have been so different. I mean, now at 52, I'm like, no, I have nothing. I care about what I care about, the people that I love. And if you don't like it, go pound sand. Yeah. Because it's not truly what's important. And so what you are doing with Bryght and the shows and the women that you hire and teach, it's truly phenomenal. And I've, watched it for the past few years and how you've grown and how, like Becca, who does your marketing and social media, how she's grown over the last couple years because she's by your side and she's watching you and learning, and her personality has come out, and it's truly amazing. You guys are such an amazing team. And I know watching from your trade shows too, like they just look so fun. It's like a big party.
And that's really, Michelle, like, people either love us or hate us. People actually call the shows and they'll speak to the director and say, is Bryght coming? And the response from the show director is, do you want to be near them or away from them? Really true life that's happening. So we either have, our lovers or haters. There's no in between, which has been very much my life. There is no gray area. It's, black or white, and, you either love me or you hate me. But when we get stuck next to, and I say stuck, and I'm okay to say it's stuck next to a brand that really has an issue with us, I look around and I see how our team is thriving. They are so happy to be there. It doesn't feel like work for us during the show. And these other, like, they're miserable. They're so miserable. And that's the biggest thing. Like when I walk through these trade shows, and don't get me wrong, it is a lot of work. Our bodies are literally broken before they even start because of the setup and the planning to the teardown. My girls work so hard. No one really sees the behind the scenes on what happens to get that started. But we're loving every minute of that trade show versus the people that are across from us, like, they're so miserable. They're literally on their phones, cannot wait to get out of there. And that's the biggest thing with Bryght, is like, you'll never see that with us.
You've created an environment where working is joy. So it's not really
Yeah,
working. And you you took your team to Mexico this year.
I
I mean,
did.
that is freaking amazing. As you like, and you posted about it, and it was, a work and play retreat, but it was something you had dreamed about for so long. Who does that? You do that.
I know. And that, I mean, that trip was so special because that was when the lawsuit was dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
So on top of everything that, was going on, COVID, I was diagnosed with cancer. During that same time, I was being sued by a man that I had never met before for $2 million. I mean, I sold my childhood home to pay for legal fees. Just to have representation to not even fight back, because I didn't counter sue or anything, to protect myself,
Mm-hmm.
to get representation, was $500,000 US.
Mm.
Like, it was a ton of money. And one thing, that I said to myself and was, when this comes to an end, I am going to take everyone that stood by my side. Now, 95% of that team didn't know about the lawsuit till it was going to federal court, where I was on my way to Florida to sit in trial. And that's when, I told all the girls, but I sat there as an outsider looking in, knowing what was going on my life, and watching these women show up, work their asses off, speak so highly of the brand, promote the brand, that I said to myself, like, they might not know how much this means to me over and above, because it is paying the bills to the lawsuit. Every penny we made at the trade shows, I remember I would look at the final numbers going, oh my God, I can afford to pay my lawyers this month.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Like, this is enough. So I remember thinking, when this comes to an end and I can speak my truth on what's happened here, I will reward all of these people.
And you did. We are going to talk more, but I'm going to take my quick headline break. I knew we would have so much to talk about. We could do this for hours, but I love my headline breaks. So CNN Travel, July 28th, 2023. She grew up on an island with no running water or electricity, and now she's a pilot. I mean, how about a catching headline for that? So, some little kids grow up dreaming of being pilots. Sylvia McLeod wasn't one of them. During her childhood on the Tongan island of Vaua, she didn't even know that being a pilot was a possible career. But whenever a plane flew over the thatched hut she lived in with her family, little Sylvia would run outside to see. It was a fantasy as a child, as for every time an aircraft or the sign of an aircraft flying over, I'm always racing outside, pointing to the sky, she said. I wouldn't say that I wanted to be a pilot, but it was fascination, that curiosity in me that thought, wow, what clever people are operating these machines. Since then, much has changed for McLeod. She married, emigrated to Australia, and eventually became one of the clever people operating that flying machine. In doing so, she became one of only a handful of Tongan people ever to get a pilot's license, and the very first Tongan woman. And you can read the whole story at CNN Travel, and such an inspiration. But when I saw that, Luba, I'm like, that is a perfect headline for this show, because she saw something and dreamed it and made it happen, which is 100% what you have done. I want to ask about, because God, we could talk for hours, but you do modeling campaigns with Bryght, and you're not hiring models. You are hiring real people. And you listeners, you have to go follow Bryght, and it's BRYGHT on the socials. The website's brightenup.com with the Y. Please go find them and follow. And if you do want to learn more about the lawsuit, you can listen on Between Both Cheeks. There's a couple episodes on that podcast. But in the modeling campaign for Strength and Courage, give me the synopsis about how that came about and the serendipitous photographer that you had found. And I know the story, but I think it's truly amazing.
So when I created Strength and Courage, which is mainly for cancer patients undergoing chemo and radiation, but can be used for any sort of skin conditions, compromised, dry, windburn, sunburn, all those things, I wanted to do a really strong campaign with Bryght Strength and Courage, like we do with any of our campaigns. It's very in your face. So I had my designer look for stock images. And anything that we found that was cancer related was sad.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was sad. And I remember I was going through cancer at that time, and I was like, yeah, like I absolutely have my sad moments, the woe is me moments, but like I'm still living. Like I'm still here, I'm still living, I still have joy and happiness. Like what the fuck? No, I don't want someone crying in a lobby for the images. So I was like, screw this. Nope. And that's when I had made a promise to myself that every year we will have a model search for any sort of cancer survivor. Doesn't matter what type of cancer that they've been through, but we will show the empowerment from within on what they've went through. And then they have the opportunity to also share their story. So Tomai was our first model. She was a breast cancer survivor, I think 3 times over.
Oh, bless
She
her.
had a double mastectomy, and we shot this campaign in COVID through not even like FaceTime or anything, like just through, I met a photographer. I found a photographer through Instagram in Australia, New Zealand, sorry, who drove to her and shot in her home and then sent me all of the images. And someone that has like a major issue with control, or I did, like that's when I knew I was like, wow, like I could really let things go and things will still happen. But yeah, he literally, I just was hashtagging like editorial photographer New Zealand, and I was going through all these photographers and I saw his work and I was like, this speaks to me. I think he'll know what I want. And I messaged him and I told him what I was doing. And he said, oh, did you find me through the Breast Cancer Association of New Zealand? And I was like, no. And he goes, I just finished doing a shoot for them, and I'm highly involved with them every year. I have been for years. So again, I was just like, okay, the universe has lined this up like crazy. So we're now into our second year, and Miranda is our model for the second year. Anyone, you can nominate yourself. You can nominate someone. You go through an interview process. Jen Rosenbaum was the photographer this year, who's also a breast cancer survivor and an author.
And a podcast host. She has her own podcast too.
She does as well. I highly recommend her book. It helped me get through so much because when her book was launched, I was undergoing cancer. Her book's called What the Fuck Just Happened, I believe. So yeah, now like, we've got these amazing photographers and these amazing models, and, it's my goal to keep this going and then eventually do a calendar with all of the models and all the proceeds from those, from that calendar, hopefully, and that's gonna be like 12 years, but that'll go to cancer research.
That is amazing. And I did apply to be a model last year, but I fully understand why Miranda won, because she is a force of nature. You can find her on Instagram at FOV Fabulous, and she has a rare, oh God, I can't even describe the type of cancer, but it has to do with her adrenal glands. And she has massive ups and downs, but she is one of those women who is going through basically life with stage 4 cancer diagnosis and basically says, fuck you, I am going to be fabulous. You cannot take this away. And God, I love that about her so much. So
Michelle, you can apply this year. We're starting the campaign, I believe, in October again.
Of course I will. I know we have to have some, time between the breast cancer and all that, and you can't see me. I am wearing a fabulous tank top, which says, it's basically fuck cancer, and it's like grayed out with I can't even think of the right words. Tell me the words.
It's like a blur.
A blur. Yes, and you can actually go to the website brightenup.com and go to the shop and the apparel, and my photo is there in this same tank top. So
you're our model online.
I love that. I am one of the Bryght babes, so I say that. Let's talk about the culture of having a women-only organization. What is that like? Because you said culture is one of the biggest things you care about.
It's amazing. It's like this incredible sisterhood, and being an only child, like maybe that's where this all comes from. I don't have any family. I lost my mom in 2019. She was an only, my dad was an only, their parents were onlys. I never met my grandparents. I have no cousins. I have no, this is it. So the Bryght family is my family. So, when something happens to someone, it affects me because they're family. I have an amazing group of women. I am so, so lucky.
I love that. And I yes, from my vantage on the outside, it's so obvious that you do. And just by watching the trade show videos and the other things that you do, you can tell that you are a family. And I love that so much. It really sings to my heart. And you're continuing to do stuff by teaching the estheticians and the different people at these shows because you want everyone to succeed. And
Yeah.
you're doing everything you can to help other women.
There's little things that might happen where, if someone kind of gets hurt by someone or someone, like, it is amazing how the wolf pack is like, oh, hell no. What did she say? What happened here? Like, this isn't going to go, like, the fight, I don't know. It is just, I have no words for the support that everyone has for one another and the respect that everyone has for one another.
It is definitely a sisterhood. Have you read The Wolf Pack by Abby Wambach?
I have not.
Oh, it's very good. It's short. It's literally like a couple-hour read, and it is fabulous. I love her. She's one of those people that has reinvented herself after her career as a professional soccer player.
Oh, so, I'm gonna have to read that.
Yeah, she's amazing. What has been the greatest blessing to the life you live to where you've gotten now? Like, what do you look back on and say, wow, like, I'm so happy I'm here because of this? Or
I would say cancer.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I mean, people that have not been through a cancer diagnosis will listen to this and be like, she's out of her mind. And when I was diagnosed and I called two friends of mine, one much older, a woman, and someone much younger, male, two different types of cancer, they said the same thing. They said, you know what, Luba, you'll get through this and it will be the best thing that's ever happened to you. And I was like, I remember thinking, like, these people are fucking insane. Mm-hmm. Like, they have no clue. But cancer gave me an entirely new perspective on life. I feel like I'm a different person. I've been able to let go of things. I've been able to really realize what's important. Going back to the whole thing of like toxic environments, I was obviously in several toxic environments thinking that was normal. Cancer has given me the opportunity to now look at that like, this is not normal. Start removing people from your table. Start removing things that don't serve you. If you're not happy here, make it and remove it, as opposed to like, I just have to get through this and do this and then it'll be okay.
Yeah, life is not about getting through it. And once you realize that, and having cancer, any kind of cancer, something that literally is in your body and wants to kill you, it really makes you take a step back and look and think, oh, these things are not so important, but this is. I 100% agree with that. It definitely has been the same for me. Yeah.
And I feel like my life has never been better since my cancer diagnosis. It really, I feel like, I think that there was guardian angels that were giving me signs and hints about making a change and taking a different path. And I was just so headstrong in fighting that. Like my whole career, whether it be corporate, whether it be through wax, everything felt like an uphill battle that I was constantly like fighting it. I'll get through it. Let me just do this for a while and then this will be okay. But it was a constant fight. And when you stop listening to your guardian angels or the universe or God or whoever that thing is for you, it beats you down to a way of like, here you go. This is my belief. Here you go. Here's a cancer diagnosis. You can't do anything now except sit here for the next 8 months while you undergo treatment and put you and your health first. Stuck in your room, grounded, think about it. We've tried to give you the messages. You haven't listened. So shame on you. Here you go. That's the way that I took it. And then with Bryght, everything just flows. And I'm not saying it's easy in any way, but like everything just seems to align and work itself out. And it just has a flow and not that fight that I've constantly been dealing with.
Because of the environment you have created and the people that you have hired and the partners that you have made this happen. So you have to be pretty damn proud of that.
Yeah, I really am. I really, really am.
As you should be. So we are getting to the end of our time. What is filling your soul today?
Like today or these days?
Either, whatever comes to mind.
Well, I'm semi-rewired. That's what I'm calling it. So, but filling my soul. I am so over the moon that I've sold my business Wax in Vegas. I sold it on July 1st, which is Canada Day, and I could not be happier. It's freed up time for me. I'm in this weird space of like, what do you mean I don't have 92 meetings today and I only have 3? And like the trade shows, I just had a meeting with Aaron and Becca, and we're like, oh my God, we're all going to see each other in like a matter of a week. And just, getting my tribe back together, delivering our message that we do, meeting all of our customers and our fans that are out. I'm going to call them fans that are Bryght fans that come out. And, these people drive like 4.5 hours to come see us. And I'm just so excited to like hear their story, their journeys, hug them, squeeze them. I'm excited to see my team.
I saw that you're going to Texas, right?
Texas in October, but we leave for LA next week.
Oh,
for
it's
Long
LA.
Beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. We talked about this. I'm going to miss you by a couple days because I'm going to be down there. Mm-hmm.
And then I've got a couple meetings with some agents and stuff about, we might try to get this Bryght Life reality show picked up.
Oh my gosh.
So we'll see what happens.
That would be amazing. Okay. I'm going to save my time to be a model when that's going on.
Right? Yes. Yeah.
Because I love to be the center of attention.
Well, maybe everything's meant to be, Michelle.
It is. You and I were definitely meant to be. Luba, thank you so much for being here today. Before we sign off, tell our listeners where they can find all things Bryght and you, please.
So for me personally, I'm literally on TikTok, but mostly on Instagram, and it's Luba Sasowski, LubaSasowski. Everything Bryght is brighten up, BRYGHTENUP. That is Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook. Are we still calling it Twitter? I think it's still called Twitter. Just looks different. YouTube, just Google Bryght or Bryght Professional. Everything will be there. I think Between Both Cheeks is our podcast. So make sure you tune into that. If you're interested in watching the Bryght Life, the reality show, we have some really amazing episodes. We just finalized 2 more. So I think there's a total of 15 episodes. There's an episode in there with my lawyers about the lawsuit. So I actually interviewed them.
I watched that.
So if you're a small business, thing very interesting to watch. And that's all the places you can find us. And then check out, if you're a beauty professional, you can go to our website and find out where we're going to be in a city near you for the next trade show and come say hi.
I love that. And for those of you who are just regular people like me, go online, buy the products, Strength and Courage and the apparel, but also the new hype light that they have. It's for my neck. So I'm putting on the stuff and then I do this, and literally it's definitely tightens up my neck, which I need. And I love that. So they're on the technology edge as well as the vegan, cruelty-free, tested. They're just out there to put good products out into the world, which is amazing.
We are.
Yes. Okay, love. Well, thank you so much. I love you. I adore you. I just can't wait till we can hug in person.
I know, me too. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So listeners, you know where to find us. We rise by lifting each other on the socials, or Instagram. It's just rise by lifting each other. Look for the Phoenix. That is me. Podcasts are on all the places. If you would love to share this with someone who you think would enjoy it, please do. This is a passion project for me, and I just want to share how people are putting out good into the world. And Luba is definitely doing that by being the badass boss that she is and supporting other women. So we'll be back in a few weeks. And remember, we heal through adversity and we rise by lifting each other. Have a great day.
If you or someone you love has experienced a diagnosis of breast cancer, please check out Breast Friends. Their mission is to ensure that no woman goes through cancer alone by providing education, community, and support. Regardless of where you are in your journey, Breast Friends will help you navigate this new and challenging path with support and understanding. Breast Friends strives to be relevant, accessible, and inclusive of all who want to participate and aim to empower those to thrive beyond their cancer diagnosis through experiencing a variety of activities and informative topics in a nurturing environment. Breast Friends is thrilled to announce a partnership with Know Your Lemons to provide educational classes about symptom awareness and screening information to the community. Please check out www.breastfriends.org or email mail@breastfriends.org for additional information.